Welcome to our channel Rare Coins Hub, where history hides in your pocket change. If you love coins, treasures, and untold stories, you're in the right place. Ever wonder if that old penny in your drawer is worth hundreds, or even thousands? Let's talk about the iconic wheat penny and why collectors are hunting it down. It was the spring of 1945. Across the Atlantic, the final echoes of World War II were dying down, cities rebuilding from rubble, families praying for peace, and soldiers dreaming of home. In the midst of global turmoil, something quiet and small emerged from the United States Mint, something unassuming, yet destined to become a timeless treasure, the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny. This was no ordinary coin. To many, it was just a piece of copper worth 1 cent, tossed into pockets, passed across dusty gas station counters, and dropped into the hands of eager children for penny candy. But behind its modest gleam lay a story interwoven with history, patriotism, and the intricate dance of supply, demand, and sheer luck. Back in Washington, D.C., the war effort had consumed every corner of American life. Copper had once been earmarked for ammunition, wiring, and communication equipment. Just a few years earlier, the 1943 penny had been made from steel coated in zinc, a stark departure from its usual copper composition. By 1945, however, copper had made its return, but in limited quantities, still precious, still scrutinized. The design of the penny hadn't changed since 1909, when Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln was first stamped onto the obverse. Lincoln's sharp profile, gazing rightward with a stoic dignity, had become a symbol of honesty and resilience. On the reverse, the twin wheat stalks curved upward like a frame, embracing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Simple. Classic. Eternal. But what makes the 1945 penny so intriguing isn't just its artistry or its age, it's what it represents. It was minted in the millions, over 1 billion, to be exact, across 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. So why would a coin so seemingly common hold such extraordinary value today? That's where the magic begins. Out of the ocean of copper coins minted that year, only a rare few survived in pristine condition. Most were scratched, worn down, or oxidized from decades of circulation. But the rarest of them all? The brilliant uncirculated specimens, often preserved by accident, tossed in forgotten drawers, sealed in wartime savings jars, or hidden in the crevices of old trunks passed down through generations. Collectors today hunt them like modern-day treasure seekers. They pore over rolls, examine edge reading under microscopes, and chase rumors of a misstrike or a doubling of letters. A double die obverse? That could be the jackpot. An off-center strike? Even better. But it's the perfect coin, flawless, gleaming, untouched by time, that sends shivers down a numismatist's spine. One such coin surfaced at an estate auction in Ohio. Hidden among buttons, faded photographs, and war medals, the coin gleamed like it had just emerged from the press. Experts were called in. Grading agencies confirmed its extraordinary condition. Mint state 68 read, a near miracle of preservation. The bidding war that followed was electric, the final hammer falling at an astonishing $172,000. Another surfaced in California, found by a teenager rummaging through their grandfather's cigar box. It wasn't quite as flawless, but still bore the vibrant luster of a freshly struck coin. That penny fetched $132,000 at a private sale. Then there are the whispered stories of a coin bought for 10 cents at a flea market, later revealed to be an ultra-rare aerostrike, fetching a windfall. Or the man who discovered a high-grade 1945 penny stuck in the floorboards of a century-old home. Fate, it seems, has a curious way of choosing its storytellers. The coin's rise in value isn't just about scarcity. It's about nostalgia, the yearning for a piece of history one can hold in their hand. It's about honoring a time when the world was reshaped and a nation forged forward through sacrifice and unity. The 1945 penny carries the weight of that legacy, even if it only weighs 3.11 grams. Collectors speak of it in reverent tones. Dealers secure them behind glass, under LED lights that make them glow like fire. And enthusiasts? They keep searching, always searching, through coin rolls and dusty attics, hoping to uncover the next legendary piece. And now, as you hold this piece of history in your thoughts, imagine its journey. From the clang of mint machinery in a time of war, to the quiet hum of an auction hall decades later. From pockets to piggy banks, from forgotten drawers to velvet-lined cases. The 1945 penny isn't just copper, it's memory, it's mystery, and it's money. Today, depending on its condition, rarity, and specific characteristics, a 1945 Lincoln penny can fetch anywhere from $110,000 to $180,000. 1 cent, born of war, reborn as a treasure. Would you recognize its worth if it passed through your hands? The year was 1950, a moment of transition and reflection. The shadows of World War II had begun to fade, replaced by a cautiously hopeful peace. The Cold War loomed in the background, television sets flickered in living rooms for the first time, and a post-war generation of Americans was beginning to dream bigger. Tucked into pockets and purses across the country, a small copper coin quietly entered circulation, a 1950 Lincoln wheat penny, modest in size but destined for far more than mere transactions. This penny wasn't just money. It was a witness to an evolving nation, to the heartbeat of American resilience and change. From corner stores to church collection plates, from candy counters to bank vaults, it moved among millions. But not every 1950 penny shared the same fate. Struck in 3 different mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the 1950 penny maintained the beloved design that had become iconic over 4 decades. On the front, Abraham Lincoln remained ever vigilant, his eyes steady and calm. His silhouette, designed by Victor David Brenner, had seen America through wars and recessions, now watching as a new era unfolded. The reverse still bore the twin wheat stalks arching upward, framing the words 1 cent, a symbol of agricultural pride and a simpler economy. Yet, behind that familiar face, lay the subtle twists of fate that would make some versions of this penny far more valuable than others. While hundreds of millions were minted, only a precious handful would emerge unscathed from time. In pristine condition, untouched by grime or pocket wear, some of these copper coins began to defy the odds, and catch the eyes of collectors who knew what to look for. It might surprise you to know that in today's world, a flawless 1950 Lincoln wheat penny can sell for between $95,000 and $160,000. That's right. A single cent, if perfectly preserved, can rival the cost of luxury cars, dream vacations, and even homes. But how could that be? The key lies in rarity, condition, and the relentless passion of those who seek out the extraordinary. Over time, most pennies fade. Their luster dulls. Their edges wear down. A small nick here, a rub there, and their collector value sinks. But a few coins manage to escape the ravages of circulation. Some were stashed away, still gleaming, by soldiers returning from Korea. Others were sealed in rolls by cautious savers, forgotten in the backs of drawers or deep inside safety deposit boxes. Even more captivating are the anomalies, coins that were struck slightly off-center, or those showing doubled dies where letters appear ghosted or split. These rare quirks of the minting process elevate a humble coin into a numismatic marvel. For the 1950 penny, some of the most valuable examples are graded mint state 67 or 68 red, so perfect they seem untouched by human hands. There was the story of an elderly woman in Nebraska, who had been tucking away coins since her teenage years. Decades later, her grandson discovered a near-perfect 1950 penny inside a tin box of keepsakes. It was later sold at auction for over $140,000, setting off waves of excitement across coin-collecting circles. Then there was the young father in Arizona who purchased a box of unsearched wheat pennies from a flea market. In the dim light of his garage, using only a magnifier and curiosity, he spotted one that glowed just a little brighter. Certified soon after, it was graded at MS 68 red, flawless, brilliant, and ultimately valued at $155,000. Every coin tells a story, but the 1950 penny has more than one. It tells of cautious savers and adventurous collectors. Of mint employees striving for perfection. Of chance discoveries in dusty attics. Of auctions that end in gasps and applause. And always, of that moment when someone realizes they're holding more than a penny, they're holding a legacy. The charm of the 1950 penny goes beyond price tags. It's a symbol of post-war optimism, of craftsmanship during a time of change, and of the quiet miracles that exist in the most ordinary places. It reminds us that value isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes, it hides in the copper shine of a coin passed from hand to hand, until the right hands come along to see its worth. As long as there are pockets to check and jars to empty, someone, somewhere, will be looking for that perfect 1950 penny. Because in a world constantly rushing forward, some treasures from the past still wait patiently to be found. In the midst of a decade brimming with change, 1953 stood out like a sepia-toned photograph, full of contrasts, both nostalgic and new. Dwight D. Eisenhower had just taken the presidential oath, the Korean War was nearing a close, and Elvis Presley was still a name whispered in the corners of southern bars. Across American towns, families gathered around black and white televisions, unaware they were living through moments that would one day be called history. And among the pocket change that jingled softly during those times, a simple copper coin entered circulation. The 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny. It was a coin meant for everyday use. To buy a stick of gum. To make change for a newspaper. To sit in the metal cash register drawers of soda fountains and roadside diners. And yet, in its unassuming form, the 1953 penny carried forward a tradition that had begun half a century earlier, the quiet honor of bearing Abraham Lincoln's image. By 1953, the wheat reverse design was familiar, almost comforting. Twin stalks cradled the words 1 cent and United States of America, a design born from a different century, still standing tall through 2 world wars and the Great Depression. It was the kind of coin that seemed timeless, even as the world around it shifted. The mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were operating at full speed during this time, producing millions of pennies each week. Yet even with mass production, not every coin was created equal. Most were used and worn within months. But a very small number escaped this fate. These are the coins collectors cherish today. The story of these pennies begins in the details. Lincoln's profile, his beard crisp, his gaze focused. The word liberty sharp and unblemished. The date, 1953, free of nicks and scratches. The reverse side just as important, the wheat stalks clean and elegant, the lettering bold and perfectly centered. These are the coins that, decades later, have become treasured. Midway through the story of the 1953 penny comes a twist few expect. Some of these coins, preserved in almost miraculous condition, now carry a collector's value between $90,000 and $145,000. A penny, worth far more than its face value, and even more than the dreams of those who once pocketed it casually. The reasons for their value are many. Coins that are still bright red, uncirculated, and in mint condition are graded higher. MS-67 or MS-68 red, the kind of grading reserved for flawless examples, are rare, and collectors pay handsomely to own them. Even small details can make a difference. A subtle doubling in the letters of "In God We Trust." A slight misalignment of the die. These imperfections, when combined with otherwise perfect quality, can send a penny's value soaring. Coin enthusiasts know this feeling well. The moment you slide open an old cigar box or lift the lid of a dusty jar, and there it is. A penny that somehow escaped the decades untouched. For the 1953 wheat penny, that moment is nothing short of electric. Collectors have scoured estate sales, flea markets, and forgotten attic trunks in hopes of finding one. And sometimes, they do. A retired machinist in Oregon once discovered an uncirculated roll of 1953 pennies in the back of his workshop, tucked behind an old radio. One of those coins, nearly glowing under inspection, fetched over $130,000 at auction. In another instance, a middle school student sorting through his grandfather's coin album stumbled upon a flawless 1953 D penny. Graded MS-67 plus red, it soon became the centerpiece of a numismatic auction in New York, eventually selling for $142,000, an extraordinary windfall from a forgotten family keepsake. Then there was the story of a quiet librarian from Pennsylvania. For years, she had collected wheat pennies from the circulation she handled at work. She didn't know much about value or mint marks, she simply liked the way they looked. One day, she brought her collection to a local coin show, and a dealer's eyes widened as he examined a single piece, a 1953 penny in remarkable condition. It was later sold for $138,000. She used the proceeds to finally travel to Europe, fulfilling a dream that had waited over 40 years, but beyond the numbers, the 1953 penny captures something even greater, a snapshot of American life. It's the click of leather shoes on city sidewalks, the crackle of static on the radio, the sharp smell of gasoline at a local filling station. It's the penny that sat in a soldier's footlocker or was handed over for a scoop of strawberry ice cream at a corner store. It reminds us that history doesn't just live in textbooks or monuments. Sometimes, It's hiding in plain sight, in a small, copper coin passed from one generation to the next, carrying with it all the echoes of the time it came from. In the end, the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny stands as a testament not only to craftsmanship but to the unpredictability of legacy. No one who spent one in 1953 could have imagined it would someday be worth tens of thousands. But that's the magic of numismatics, the merging of history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. So the next time you empty your change jar or flip through an old coin book, remember the 1953 penny. Because every once in a while, something ordinary turns out to be extraordinary. And sometimes, a penny isn't just a penny, it's a piece of the past, waiting to shine again. In 1949, America was rediscovering itself. The Second World War had ended just a few years prior, and a new kind of peace settled over the country, one filled with hope, rebuilding, and the quiet rhythm of daily life. Television was finding its way into living rooms. Suburbs were sprouting like spring flowers. And tucked within the change purses and piggy banks of this recovering nation was a small copper coin, a 1949 Lincoln wheat penny. To most, it was simply another penny. But to those who look a little closer, who listen to what history whispers through its worn edges, the 1949 penny tells a deeper story. It's a coin born from a time of transition. Gone were the war efforts and ration stamps. In their place came baby boomers, big cars, and the optimism of a new decade on the horizon. The coin itself bore the same dignified features Americans had come to know and love. Abraham Lincoln, etched in quiet strength, faced right, his gaze stern but just. Behind him, the words "I and God we trust" arched with solemn pride. To his left, the word liberty balanced the design. And beneath him, the year 1949, clean and precise, but while the design remained familiar, the world around it had changed. The Denver and San Francisco mints produced large quantities of these coins, as did Philadelphia, but not all pennies were made equal. Most circulated quickly, bouncing from pocket to pocket, their details fading with every transaction. Yet a rare few, those shielded from time, uncirculated, and perfectly struck, would eventually become the centerpiece of collectors' dreams. In numismatics, condition is everything. A coin from 1949 in circulated condition might fetch only a few cents above face value. But one in pristine shape, uncirculated, red in luster, graded MS-67 or above, is something else entirely. These coins are rare jewels, not just because of their age, but because of their preservation, and that's where the magic happens. Midway through this coin's quiet journey, a truth emerges that few anticipate. A 1949 Lincoln wheat penny in top condition can command a collector's price between $75,000 and $138,000. It's a jaw-dropping figure for a penny. But for collectors, it's not just about value, it's about legacy. Imagine the excitement of a retired teacher in Ohio who found an old cigar tin filled with wheat pennies in her father's attic. Inside, she discovered a gleaming 1949 D penny, untouched by time, tucked in wax paper. She brought it to an appraisal fair where experts nearly gasped. Graded MS-68 red, the coin was later sold for $132,000, money she used to fund a local scholarship program. Or the young man in Arizona, sorting through his grandfather's coin collection out of curiosity, who stumbled on a flawless 1949 S penny. What began as an innocent search became a life-changing moment, culminating in a $120,000 auction bid. He later used the proceeds to start a vintage collectibles business in honor of his grandfather. Stories like these echo the power of the 1949 penny. It's not just about copper and mintage numbers, it's about people, memories, and discovery. Each one tells a tale of patience rewarded, of history remembered. Collectors treasure every small detail, the even fields of the coin surface, the deep strike that defines Lincoln's cheekbone, the symmetry in the wheat stalks. And let's not forget the thrill of finding a double die or minting error, features that can send a coin's value into the stratosphere. The 1949 penny captures a unique chapter in American history. It marks the start of the Cold War era, the rise of consumer culture, and the slow but steady march into a modern America. Holding one is like holding a snapshot from that time, a reminder of simpler days, when soda cost a nickel and a penny still had weight, and maybe that's why collectors chase them. Because to find a perfect 1949 wheat penny is to hold a piece of the American soul, a quiet relic that tells you, without a word, that sometimes the smallest things carry the deepest meaning. So keep your eyes open. Dig through those coin jars. Flip through that old folder at the back of your closet. Because every now and then, a penny worth just 1 cent in 1949 could be your key to a six-figure treasure, and a priceless connection to the past. The year was 1954. A time when Elvis Presley was just beginning to shake up the airwaves, when families gathered around black and white televisions, and when the American dream was something you could taste in every malt shop milkshake. It was a year of transition, of optimism, of steel cars with sweeping fins, and quietly nestled in the pockets and purses of America, a humble copper coin carried its own secret story. The 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, most people who held it never gave it a second thought. A penny was a penny, a means to buy a stick of gum or help exact change for a bus ride. But in the dim corners of dusty coin shops, in the velvet-lined drawers of seasoned collectors, and across hushed auction houses, the 1954 wheat penny began to command a very different kind of attention. The wheat penny had already earned its iconic status. With Lincoln's noble profile on the obverse and the graceful arcs of wheat on the reverse, it stood as a testament to American resilience and identity. But 1954 added its own twist. Minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the coin's production marked one of the last in the era before design changes would reshape the cents reverse forever in 1959. Collectors know that while millions were minted, only a rare handful survived the decades in pristine condition. And in the world of auctions, that rarity becomes a form of currency all its own. It's at these auctions, on polished wooden podiums, under the intense gaze of experts and bidders, that the true worth of a 1954 wheat penny is revealed. Midway through the journey of this tiny copper disc, a truth emerges that even lifelong collectors might not suspect: in uncirculated condition, in vibrant red luster, free from nicks and bag marks, the 1954 Lincoln penny can sell for anywhere between $75,000 and $135,000 at auction. These aren't hypothetical numbers. These are real outcomes from real bidding wars, where collectors raise paddles with sweaty palms and hearts pounding. Take for example the estate sale in upstate New York, where a forgotten cigar box turned out to contain a nearly perfect 1954 D penny, graded MS67 plus red. The family had no idea of its worth until the appraisal came in. When the coin hit the auction block, the opening bid started modestly. Within minutes, the numbers skyrocketed. Final hammer price, $131,000. The family, overwhelmed, later shared that the coin had been stashed away for nearly 60 years, passed down from a grandfather who collected pennies during his lunch breaks working in a factory. Or consider the Texas gentleman who spent decades building a collection of Lincoln cents, one for each year, each in gem condition. When he passed, his heirs turned to a renowned auction house to sell the collection. It was there that his 1954 S penny, full of fire-red luster and nearly flawless surfaces, caught fire in a bidding war that ended at $127,500. The buyer was a young entrepreneur from Chicago, who later revealed the coin reminded him of one his grandmother had given him as a child. Auctioneers often speak with reverence when a coin like this comes to the stage. They know the anticipation in the room, the slight intake of breath as the bidding begins. Collectors lean forward. Phones ring with proxy bids. Each tap of the auctioneer's gavel echoes like a heartbeat. Some auctions take place in grand ballrooms beneath glittering chandeliers, while others unfold on the digital stage, silent, swift, and global. But the excitement is always the same, and it's not just the big city auction houses. Regional coin shows, online platforms, even charity auctions have seen these coins spark ferocious interest. A penny, thought to be worth 1 cent, becomes the jewel of the event, an unexpected star whose value transcends time. What makes these auctions even more compelling is the human emotion woven into every bid. There's the father who spends hours with his teenage son preparing for their first auction, hoping to win a piece of history together. Or the retired librarian who sells her beloved book collection just to place a single bid on a 1954 wheat penny she's dreamed of owning for decades. But value is about more than money. It's about story. And each 1954 penny has one. Some were tucked away in coin albums by children in the 50s. Others were handed down from veterans, tucked with war medals and old photographs. Each has lived a journey of circulation, rediscovery, and finally, exaltation at the auction block. Collectors scrutinize every surface, every letter, every ridge. They search for strong strikes, minimal contact marks, and especially rare variations like double dies or repunched mint marks. These subtle traits can push a coin's value far above its peers, especially when certified by leading grading agencies, and that's the legacy of the 1954 wheat penny. A coin small in stature but immense in historical and collector appeal. So if you ever find one, look closely. Check the condition. Examine the luster. Because it might just be the next headliner in an auction where stories are told with every bid, and legends are made with every gavel strike that eye in the end. It's not just about copper or age. It's about legacy. The legacy of a time when a penny meant something, and when the smallest things could still leave the biggest mark. The 1954 wheat penny, though tiny, is a giant in the world of numismatics, echoing across generations through the thrill of the auction floor.